Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be all about the Disney College program, in specific the application. So I had an idea where I would make a few separate videos going over each phase of the application process for the Disney College program. So there are three separate phases. The first is the application itself, the second is the WBI or web-based interview, and the third phase is the phone interview. So I figured that I could make a separate video going over each of these phases just to give you guys some tips and tricks and give you the best way that you can be successful to make sure that you get accepted. I want to apologize in advance for how awful my hair looks and also I probably sound sick because if I sound as bad as I feel, then I know that's probably annoying, and I just wanted to get this video up because the applications for the fall 2019 semester will actually be dropping within this week, so I'm super excited about that, and I wanted to get a video up before, you know, everyone starts applying so that way I can share some tips and tricks with you guys. So pardon me as I drink some tea, which I will be doing throughout this video because I feel awful. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right into the video. So as I mentioned, the applications for the fall 2019 semester will be dropping within the next few days. And because of that, like I said, that prompted me to make these videos to give everyone some tips and tricks on the application process. So as you may know or may not know, the applications will typically drop the semester before whichever semester you're applying for. So it is currently January and the fall semester would begin in August roughly, and so the applications are dropping for that semester now and people are currently checking in for the spring semester. So just to kind of give you guys an idea of what the semesters and what the program times actually look like, I will kind of briefly go over that with you. So the fall semester is typically from August until January and the spring semester is typically from January until May. Now there are two other options which are called, well, one other option technically, but two because there's this option for both semesters, and it's called the Advantage program. So the Advantage program basically just means that it's an extended program. It's a little bit longer than the typical one. So for Spring Advantage, instead of being January to May, it would be January until probably August, and then for the fall, instead of August to January, it would be from May to January. So those are just rough estimates of the times, but typically the only difference that you really have to know is the Advantage program is typically just a few months longer than the regular program. So that is something good to keep in mind when you are applying because that might help you decide which program you actually want to apply for. So I do have all of my different points that I want to talk about saved in my phone. So I'm just going to kind of reference this throughout the video just to be sure that I'm giving you guys all of the tips and everything that I could think of. So the very first thing that the application is going to ask for is going to be your personal information. So it's just going to ask for things like your name, your phone number. It might ask for like your address. It just asks for really basic personal information. This is really the easiest part of the application. I mean, it's just all about you. So just make sure you fill that out to the best of your knowledge, which you should be pretty knowledgeable about. It will also ask you about which college you're attending. So being that this is the Disney College program, you do have to currently be attending college or okay, so here's where it gets tricky because it used to be 6 months out of college. You could apply up to 6 months after you graduated, but I heard that you can now be up to 1 year after graduating. I don't know how true that is. I haven't been keeping up really with like the Twitter page this year. I used to really be like hardcore following the recruiters on Twitter, which is a really good kind of advantage if you want to look up the recruiters on Twitter. They do have Twitter pages, a lot of them, and they will give you some really great information. That's how a lot of people will typically know when the apps are actually coming out. But I actually got accepted for the spring program that people are currently checking in for, and unfortunately just due to some time off restraints I wasn't able to attend, but I was accepted for that program. And last semester when I did get accepted for this current spring one, I didn't really check the Twitter page or join the Facebook page just because a lot of times there can be some drama going on, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just applying for myself. I'm not worrying about what everyone else is going through. So I did see someone say that though, but I wouldn't know for for sure, because like I said, I haven't really been following along this time either. And just to kind of touch back on what I just said, yes, I did get accepted for Spring Advantage 2019. Unfortunately though, like I said, I'm not able to attend, but I will be applying again, so I will let you guys know what's going on with that, and I'll definitely keep you updated. But to reference back again to the Twitter and Facebook page, if that is something that you're interested in or you want to constantly be updated on what's going on, then I do recommend definitely joining the Facebook page or following the recruiters on Twitter. It is a good way to just stay updated and just kind of know what's going on. But like I said, sometimes the Facebook pages are not run by anyone actually involved with Disney. They're typically just run by alumni. So sometimes there could be, you know, a little drama going on, and that's too much for me. So I kind of just bypass that part. All right, so the next part of the application is going to ask for, this might not be in the exact order that the application goes, but I'm going to touch base on everything that the application asks for. So the next thing that I have written down is your job experience. So it's going to ask to give up to 5 different job experiences. And the biggest thing that I can say for this is to use Disney buzzwords. And what I mean by that is to use words like guest instead of customer, or to use words like attractions instead of rides. So when you're filling out your job experience, a lot of people, now I don't know how true this is, like I said, I have no idea if this is true or not, but a lot of people assume that being that there's so many people applying, that the initial application is just kind of run through a computer type system, and that way it can kind of filter out the people that they want to move on to the next step. So when you're using Disney buzzwords, a lot of people think that that's the first way that the system picks up on whether or not you should move on. So a lot of people believe in using the Disney buzzwords. I have in the past and didn't move on, and then I did again this semester, and like I said, ultimately got accepted. So there's really no true way of telling, but it doesn't hurt to use the words that Disney would use. So I mean, it's worth the shot to just, you know, use Disney friendly words. The next thing that I recommend is to look on the website for what roles you actually want to do. So if you go on to disneycollegeprogram.com, it'll list every single little bit of information that you need to know about the college program. It'll go into every single aspect of the program. Living, learning, and earning are the 3 major points. So it'll talk about all of the housing opportunities that you have there. It'll also go into all of the different classes you can take, because you can take some different types of courses while you are doing the program. And then it'll also go into the earning, and it'll list every single job that you can apply for and be considered for the college program, and it'll give you a description for each one of those jobs. So I really recommend kind of going through those jobs, definitely just becoming familiar with what each job actually is. Some of them are pretty self-explanatory, like merchandise, quick service, food and beverage, but there are other things that you might not really be familiar with, like vacation planner. There's different things like, you know, the front desk of a hotel. So I definitely just recommend looking through all the roles, kind of reading through the descriptions and figuring out which ones you would actually be interested in, and just kind of knowing which each job entails. The reason I'm telling you this is because not only will you become familiar with the different jobs and have a better understanding of what you would actually want to do, but you can also look at the terms and phrases that Disney is using to describe their jobs and kind of mimic a lot of the words when you're filling out your descriptions for your job experiences. So this kind of allows you to use Disney friendly words. This kind of ties back into the Disney buzzwords thing like I mentioned earlier, and this gives you kind of an advantage because you can see how Disney is wording their job descriptions, and then you can kind of pick up on some of the things and, you know, use that to actually fit what you are doing for your job experiences. So to kind of tie along with that, just use job experiences that actually make sense to work at Disney. I mean, you can probably find things that are relevant to Disney in any job that you've had, but you know, maybe if you did something that like, maybe if you were like a mechanic or something and like that doesn't tie into Disney at all, I don't know. I'm just trying to pick something random, but like if you did something that maybe didn't tie into Disney at all, you might not want to put that on the application. You really want to put experiences that make sense to working at Disney, and that's just my personal opinion. Like, you don't have to listen to that at all. That's just something I feel like maybe if you, maybe let me reword that. If you have a lot of job experiences in the past, you can only put up to 5. So if you have one that might not make the most sense for Disney, maybe leave that one out and put something that would be a better fit, that Disney would look at and say, oh, okay, that actually is relevant to something that they could do during the program. So that's just my opinion, but I think that that would make the most sense. A tip for the actual description of the job itself, I definitely recommend that you shouldn't be too wordy when you're filling out the description. because I've actually looked at my past applications and I've applied 4 times just for a frame of reference. And the first time my descriptions were right to the point and I made it all the way to the phone interview. Unfortunately, I did get NLIC'd or no longer in consideration after that. But then I applied 2 times after that and I really revamped my application, but I used so many words. Like I just made the application look so long and it was just way too much. So then this time when I applied this last time and I got accepted, I really cut it out a lot, but I did use a lot more Disney-friendly words. So if you're going to use words, like I said, use Disney-friendly words, but don't make your description too wordy. You don't want it to be too bulky and just have too much information. Get to the point, say what you're trying to say, and just list the most relevant bullet points to make it look like what you did in the past would definitely help you be successful in the jobs that you could get for the college program. A big question that I see a lot of people ask is, what if I don't have any real job experience? So my tip for that is if you don't have any real job experience, just put any type of experience that you actually do have. So this could be any type of like volunteer experience. If you've ever done anything to help out at your church, put that down. If you've ever done anything with your school, definitely put that down. I mean, I used to be part of something at my school where as a junior and senior, I was kind of on like the welcoming committee for the incoming freshmen. So I would definitely recommend putting something like that on your application. It definitely shows people skills, it shows how to be personable, it shows that you're welcoming and friendly, so that definitely all goes hand in hand with having a job at Disney. So definitely put things like that. If you've ever been like a coach or like an assistant coach for any type of sport you've played like your whole life, then definitely put those types of things on the application. Anything that you have done in the past, you can put on here. It doesn't have to be a paying job. Anything that's even volunteer, you can definitely put on the application. And like I said, anything that kind of relates back to Disney, I would definitely recommend having. All right, so the next part of the application is picking out your roles. So when you do this, I just recommend choose as many as you honestly think you would want to do. So it's gonna ask you all of these different things. So the first thing it's gonna do is give you the 3 main roles, which are quick service, food and beverage, custodial, and lifeguard. These 3, they're going to make you put an interest in. Now, I can't say for sure that this is how the apps will be this semester and forward, but in the past this is how it was. So you had to put some type of interest, whether it be no interest, low interest, moderate interest, or high interest. They made you rate it. Even if you put no interest, I mean, that's fine, but they made you put something for those. So they do that because these are the main 3 that they need to fill up. So when I got accepted for Spring Advantage of this year, I got accepted for food and beverage. So these are just the 3 that they really need to fill up. These are the main ones, and so they want to see people put these. My main piece of advice for that though is don't put high interest in something that you wouldn't actually be interested in, or don't even put low interest in something. If you can't see yourself doing custodial or being a lifeguard, then just put no interest. I mean, even if you put low interest, it doesn't make you look better because then you can still get accepted for something you put low interest in. So I definitely recommend that you should be flexible and, you know, definitely keep your options open because you never know, maybe you would enjoy doing something like that. But don't pick every role just because you think it'll make you look good. Because yeah, at the end of the day, they want to see flexibility, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day if you choose custodial, even if you put low interest, because you could still get accepted for that, and then you end up getting accepted for that, and then you wind up wanting to decline your offer because you don't actually want to do custodial. So I definitely recommend, you know, being open-minded, but definitely being real with yourself and just kind of being honest to yourself and Disney when it comes down to what roles you would actually want to do. A reason this is so important also is because once you get accepted for a role, you can't change your role. So like I said, even if you put low interest, you still have a chance of getting accepted. Anything you put even the slightest interest in, they consider you for. So you know, you can't put low interest and be like, ah, no, I just put low interest, they're not going to consider me for that, because they definitely can still consider you for that. And like I said, you can't change your role after that. So just be honest with yourself. So after they ask you to put interest in those 3 roles, they're going to then give you a list of all of the other jobs that you can be considered for. So at that point, it's gonna ask you to check off the ones that you would actually want to do. So it's just gonna give you a whole list with like a little checkbox next to each one. It's gonna ask you to just check off whichever ones you would want to do. After you do that, it's going to list all of the different jobs that you checked off, and next to it, it's going to give you a little drop-down box to rate your interest, whether low, moderate, or high. So at that point, you really just, again, want to be honest with yourself. You know, definitely, if you put interest in something though, you should, you know, still be interested in it. So don't just check off every single job, but definitely still be honest. I mean, if you do have a low interest in something, then put low interest in it. I mean, like I said, I don't recommend putting interest in absolutely everything just to make yourself look good, but keep your options open. I did put interest in a lot of things, but like custodial, I believe I put no interest because I just know that that's something that I wouldn't want to do. Monorail, I put, you know, I didn't check that off because I just knew that that's not something I would want to do. So I was still honest with myself, but I did put high interest in a lot of things because I was trying to be flexible and I wanted to work in Disney. So, you know, you still have to be open-minded, but honest at the same time. Now, one job in particular that is kind of separate from the other is character performer. So all of these other roles, you just kind of check off, like I said, and then rate your interest in it. Then when you get to the final steps, the recruiters will look at your job experiences and then look at the roles you picked and kind of match you up with which ones would look best. But there is one, like I said, which is character performer, that works a little bit differently. So for character performer, you would still check that off if you were interested in it and then rate your interest. But for character performer, you do have to also attend a separate audition. So I do have a video talking about my character performer audition experiences. Definitely feel free to check that out if you'd like. I can make a whole separate video about that again if it's something people would be interested in. And when I apply again for the college program, I will definitely be attending the audition again. So I will make a whole vlog of that just to kind of give people more of an inside look. I can't record too much, but I would definitely kind of go over more things as they're going. Character performer is definitely one that is like my top role, but you know, it is pretty difficult to get in. A big factor of being a performer is height. If you know anything about that, there's so much about that on the web. If you don't know about it, you can look it up. Or like I said, I can make a whole separate performer audition and kind of go into all of that. But, you know, there is a lot of restrictions that you have to meet and all of that kind of stuff. The audition is fun though itself, so even if you think you might not get accepted for performer, I still recommend attending the audition. It's a lot of fun and a pretty cool once in a lifetime opportunity. So the next thing that they're gonna ask you on the application is to ask where you actually want to do your program. So it's going to ask if you would rather be placed in Anaheim, California for Disneyland, or if you would want to be in Orlando, Florida for Disney World. So you can pick both, or you can just choose one or the other. I always just choose Florida because that's just where I would want to do my program at. I'm very familiar with Walt Disney World in Florida. I have been there more times than I could count by this point, so that is just the one I have always dreamt of doing my program at. So I never choose California just because I couldn't actually see myself doing the program in California, at least for the first time. But you know, that's another place you just have to be honest with yourself. If you only want to do it one or the other, then just choose that one. Or if you want to do it in both and maybe keep your options open to see where they want to place you, then choose both. There are some differences with choosing the California option though. I don't know too much about them, like I said, because I haven't really ever done my research on that because that's not something I'm interested in. But I think the main thing is the housing. There are some differences with housing. With Walt Disney World, you can choose to live on property and just get a portion of your check taken out every month, and you know, you could just live on their housing. With California, I believe you have to provide your own housing. That could be wrong, don't quote me on that, but I think that's one of the main differences. The other thing that they're going to ask you at this point is if you want to do the regular program or the Advantage program. So again, you can just choose one or the other, or you can pick both. So that pretty much covers every aspect of the application. Honestly, it's very self-explanatory. Don't overthink it because that's really the worst. Honestly, I know that it sounds like I threw a lot of information at you, but try not to overthink it too much. I think that's what happened to me the other two times that I didn't move forward. I think I overthought the job experience portion of it way too much, and that's why I got it like really wordy and it just didn't seem natural. It didn't flow nicely. This last time I was just myself and I just really put down on the application everything that was right and I didn't overthink it, and see what happened. I got accepted. So really just, like I said, try to relate to Disney, but don't do it in a way that's unnatural. Don't just make things up, you know? So definitely pick things out that you think would help you to be a good cast member at Walt Disney World or Disneyland, but don't do anything that makes you kind of flow away from your natural self. So they're my biggest pieces of advice, and honestly, The application is really simple when you think about it. I mean, it's really just another job application. There are more things that you have to think about, like, you know, what jobs you actually want to be considered for and all of that, but just be honest with yourself and with them, and everything will work out the way it is supposed to. After you submit your application, you will receive an email. So in the email, it'll just say thank you for applying, and it'll give you some basic information about when you should expect to hear back and when the last day to hear back will be. So on the website, you will have to have a login, so that way you can view your dashboard, which is what they call, you know, where your application saves. You can actually go right onto the website, view your dashboard, and then you can look at your bar of updates. So there will be just like a bar there. It'll have like little points, and it'll show you which stage of the process you're in. So the first thing will say application received. So that pretty much just means your application successfully went through. Nobody has really looked at it yet. It just got sent to Disney. So now there's nothing else you have to worry about. You did everything right so far. The next thing will be application under review. So this means that Disney has received your application and now they are looking at it. So now this is the first time Disney is actually looking at your application, and they're trying to see whether or not you should move on. The next thing you'll see will be in consideration. And pretty much this means that you will now be asked to you know, conduct an online interview, or the WBI, which is the web-based interview. Or, now this is how it used to be, so I don't know if this has changed, but if you have taken a WBI in the past and it's within 6 months and you do move on the next time you apply, you immediately move on to the phone interview. So if you have a valid WBI that you have passed within the last 6 months, then you skip that part. You don't have to retake it. That's the way it used to be. I don't know if it's still the same way, but that is the way it used to be. And so that's kind of helpful, because then you don't have to take that again. If you know, have been chosen to move on, you just move on right to the phone interview, which is really nice. Or at that point, if you don't receive a WBI, then you will receive your no longer in consideration email. So you would not get that in consideration part, you would just move right on to the NLIC part. And then after that, then if you do pass your WBI, you'll move on to the phone interview, which is still be under that same in consideration spot, or there actually might be like a bullet that says interview at that point. But then after that, you'll either get one of two emails. You'll either get your acceptance or your NLIC email. So they are pretty much all of the, you know, updates that you will kind of see on that bar there. So that is a good place to kind of check. Don't continuously check that or your email, because you will stress yourself out. I promise you. The Disney College program is really all just a waiting game. When I applied in August for this current spring semester, I didn't get my email to take my WBI until October. A lot of people received their WBI email the same day that they applied, which was the very first day, and I didn't receive mine until almost 2 months later. So, you know, it really does just depend on when the recruiters are looking to send out emails. You know, there's a lot that factors into it that we don't know about, so you just have to be patient and just wait to see when it will happen. It really is all just a big waiting game, and I know that's frustrating, but that's really kind of where it goes. A lot of people think that if you apply on the first day, you have a better chance of getting accepted than someone who applies maybe a month later. And there's really no true way of telling if that's correct or not. If you look at some of the recruiters, a lot of them will say, apply early for reasons such as if you apply early, then you have a better chance of getting accepted for the role you actually want. If you wait till later, you might not get accepted for your top role. I know me personally, I applied the very first day and I got accepted about 2.5 months later. And my boyfriend applied the last day that applications were open, and he got accepted about 2 weeks later. So it really just does depend on, you know, kind of when you feel that you're ready to apply. Don't think that there's any type of correct day. The reason the recruiters will tell you the earlier the better is just so you kind of have more of an option in which roles you get accepted for. So I think that just about covers everything that I wanted to talk to you guys as far as the application goes. Honestly, like I said, just be patient. It is a waiting game. You can get no longer in consideration or NLIC'd any time throughout the process, all the way up until the very last day that you have to hear back. A lot of times, if you do join the Facebook page or if you follow any of the recruiters on Twitter, you'll hear them say things like waves, which pretty much means a lot of times throughout the process, they will do a mass, like, email, like they'll send out like a mass amount of people to move on to the WBI, or a lot of times they'll do an NLIC wave, which is really unfortunate. And then they'll also be doing acceptance waves. So that pretty much means they just send a ton of people through at the same time, or NLIC a ton of people at the same time. They just kind of do a lot of people at the same time for whatever they're looking to do at that point. Or you really can just get your WBI at any random time. Like my boyfriend applied and he got his WBI that very same night. So there's really no true way of telling. Honestly, a lot of it is a mystery to people. So it's just a waiting game. Just try your best on your application, but don't overthink it. Just really put what's gonna make you stand out the best, what's gonna make you look like the best cast member for Disney, and just be yourself, because that's really what it comes down to. So the application is the very first step of the process, and honestly, as long as you are just being true to yourself and being honest with yourself when you're filling out the application, then you should be good. And honestly, I really think that a lot of these tips and tricks that I gave you will help you move on to the next step, which is the WBI or web-based interview. And I really do wish you guys all the best of luck for anyone that will be applying within these next few days. I really hope that you guys all just believe in yourself, because that is so important when you are doing something like this. And like I said, apply when you feel ready to apply. I know a ton of people who do not apply on the first day and still get accepted, for, you know, their top roles. So apply when you're ready. Be honest with yourself and just use job experiences that would make you stand out and look good, that you belong working at Disney. So they're definitely my top tips. Be flexible, be open-minded, and everything will work out. So be on the lookout for my next video, which will be going into detail all about the WBI or web-based interview. I will be giving you guys tips and tricks on how to best succeed at that. And I hope you guys will, you know, come join me again on that video as well. I will have all of my other Disney related videos linked in the description box down below, so that way you guys can check all of those videos out, and be sure to keep subscribing to my channel, keep watching all of my upcoming videos. I absolutely love having you guys here along on this journey with me, and I will see you guys soon. Bye!